You've probably spent a few minutes scrolling through endless specs, wondering if the next big screen will finally feel worth the money or just end up as another expensive piece of wall real estate. It's a legitimate worry, especially when you're looking at a 52-inch curved panel that promises 5K 2K resolution, 240Hz refresh and HDR. You don't want to drop a premium price tag on a monitor that looks gorgeous on paper but turns out to be a pain to fit into your desk, or one that looks amazing in a showroom but can't keep up with the fast-paced games you love. So before you click add to cart, let's break down exactly what this LG Ultragear Evo G9 brings to a real-world gaming setup and where the value actually lives. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the size. A 52-inch display is a commitment. It's not the typical 27 or 32-inch gaming footprint you see in most reviews, and that changes the way you'll use it day to day. If you already have a fairly large desk, say at least 30 inches deep, and you're comfortable with the monitor taking up a sizable portion of your field of view, the extra screen real estate can feel like stepping into the game. I've seen players set up a dual monitor rig with a 27-inch work display on one side and the G9 on the other, and the Curve 1000R actually helps keep the edges within a natural viewing distance, reducing the need to constantly swivel the head. For competitive shooters where every millisecond counts, the Curve also means you can keep the central crosshair in focus without the distortion you sometimes get on flat ultrawide panels. Now, the resolution. 5120x2160, what LG calls 5K 2K, is a massive jump over the more common 3440x1440 ultrawide. In practice, that means you get roughly 30% more horizontal pixels, which translates into sharper textures and more detail in open-world titles. When you're exploring a richly rendered environment, think Cyberpunk 2077 or Horizon Forbidden West, the extra pixel density makes distant objects clearer without the pixelated feel that can happen on lower-res ultrawide screens. However, that extra detail comes at a cost. You need a fairly powerful GPU to actually push high frame rates at native resolution. If you're still on a mid-range RTX 3060, you'll likely be capping at 60 to 80 frames per second in demanding titles, which defeats the purpose of a 240Hz panel. Speaking of refresh, the G9's 240Hz and 1 millisecond gray-to-gray response time are among the most aggressive specs you'll find in a consumer monitor. In fast-paced esports titles like Valorant, CSGO, or Fortnite, that speed can shave off a fraction of a second in reaction time, especially when paired with a high-refresh GPU output. The 240Hz is most noticeable when you actually have the frame rate to match it. Otherwise, you'll see the display just cap at whatever your system can deliver. For casual gamers or those who prioritize visual fidelity over ultra-low input lag, the 144Hz tier would have been sufficient, but the extra headroom does give future-proofing if you plan to upgrade your graphics card soon. HDR is another headline feature. LG rates the panel at VESA DisplayHDR 600 and a DCI-P 395% color gamut. In a darkroom, you'll see brighter highlights and deeper blacks than on a standard 1080p monitor, which makes cinematic games like Red Dead Redemption 2 feel more immersive. The HDR performance is solid for a monitor in this price range, but it's not on par with a true OLED or a high-end HDR TV that can push 1000 nits and full-frame local dimming. If you sit in a brightly lit room, the HDR impact diminishes because the panel's peak brightness can't compete with ambient light. So the HDR advantage is most practical for dedicated gaming spaces with controlled lighting. Connectivity is surprisingly generous. The inclusion of HDMI 2.1, DisplayPort 2.1 and a USB-C port that delivers up to 90W of power means you can hook up a next-gen console, a high-end graphics card, and even charge a laptop all from the same monitor. That simplifies cable management for a desk that already looks cluttered with a mechanical keyboard, a streaming capture card, and a few external drives. The USB-C PD is especially handy if you want a single cable solution for a portable workstation. You can plug your laptop in, get power, and drive the monitor with the same line. Just remember that the USB-C input only supports video over the DP Alt mode, so you'll need a compatible laptop or dock. Now let's talk about who actually benefits from this monster. If you're a competitive FPS or fighting game player who already runs a top-tier GPU and wants a monitor that can keep up with 240 frames per second while offering a truly immersive field of view, the G9 checks a lot of boxes. The curvature, pixel density, and fast response create a cohesive experience where the visual detail and the speed complement each other. It also shines for content creators who need a large, high-resolution canvas for video editing or 3D work. The DCI-P3 coverage gives you confidence that colors are accurate enough for grading without needing a